Then war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels battled against the dragon. The dragon and its angels fought back, but they did not prevail, and there was no longer any place for them in heaven. The huge dragon, the ancient serpent, who was called the devil and Satan, who deceived the whole world, was thrown down to earth, and its angels were thrown down with it. But woe to you, earth and sea, for the devil has come down to you in great fury, for he knows he has but a short time. Hi, I'm Deacon Steve, and this reflection is for the 20th Sunday in Ordinary Time, Cycle C. The Gospel is from Luke, chapter 12, verses 49 through 53. Jesus said to his disciples, I have come to set the earth on fire, and how I wish it were already blazing. There is a baptism with which I must be baptized, and how great is my anguish until it is accomplished. Do you think that I have come to establish peace on the earth? No, I tell you, but rather division. From now on, a household of 5 will be divided, 3 against 2, and 2 against 3. A father will be divided against his son, and a son against his father. A mother against her daughter, and a daughter against her mother. A mother-in-law against her daughter-in-law, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. It was prominently held in the Jewish teaching that through the flood of Noah, water was used to both destroy and purify the world. However, at the end of the age, to make way for the new creation, the world would be not destroyed and purified with water, but with fire. In the reading today, Jesus uses the imagery of both fire and water. I have come to set the earth on fire, and how I wish it were already blazing. There is a baptism with which I must be baptized, and how great is my anguish until it is accomplished. What baptism is he talking about? In baptism, we are submerged in water, but Jesus has already been baptized by John in the Jordan. In his reply to James and John's request to sit one at his right and the other at his left when he comes into his kingdom, Jesus tells them, you do not know what you are asking. Can you drink the cup that I drink, or be baptized with the baptism with which I am baptized? Here, Jesus is not referring to being submerged in water, but is alluding to being completely immersed in a different kind of all-encompassing baptism, the baptism of the pain and suffering of the cross. And just like our baptism, his baptism of pain leads from death to new life. However, not just for himself, but for all who believe and follow his will. So why is Jesus anxious? First, in his divine nature, Jesus would have full knowledge of the pain he would endure for our sake. But even more so, he was eager to accomplish the mission for which he was sent. He was anxious and impatient. He needed to set the world on fire. But why? Jesus goes on to say that families will be divided against themselves. Now, the Jews were waiting on the reunification of the lost 10 tribes, a new exodus initiated by the Messiah. Micah prophesies the strife, tribulation, and judgment that was to occur before this reunification and the establishment of the new kingdom, writing, for the son belittles his father. The daughter rises up against her mother, the daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law, and your enemies are members of your household. In today's gospel, as the Messiah sent to establish the new kingdom and gather in those who are lost, Jesus refers to this prophecy. The world we live in is ruled by Satan. The Apostle John writes in his first letter, we know that we belong to God, and the whole world is under the power of the evil one. The Catechism of the Catholic Church states, this dramatic situation of the whole world, which is in the power of the evil one, makes man's life a battle. In today's gospel, Jesus is anxious to begin the process of taking back the world. That cannot happen until he undergoes his baptism of sacrifice and his resurrection. Jesus tells Peter, "Upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of the netherworld shall not prevail against it." I've always looked at this as saying that no matter what the devil does or throws at us, we will be safe. I got it wrong. This is the devil's world. We are the invading army. And remember, the devil has come down in great fury, for he knows he has but a short time. The gates of hell will not prevail. In other words, we are not fighting a defensive war, but an offensive war. We are on the attack. And though the battle will be bloody and full of hardship, sacrifice, and unfortunately casualties, we will prevail, not the gates of hell. However, before Christ's baptism of pain, we could not win. We did not have the weapons necessary to defeat Lucifer and his angels. Then there appeared to them tongues as of fire, which parted and came to rest on each one of them, and they were all filled with the Holy Spirit. This is the fire that Christ wishes was already blazing. This is the weapon with which we will battle the forces of evil. How effective is this gift? That first day, through the burning fire of the Holy Spirit, those who accepted his message were baptized, and about 3,000 persons were added. But wait a second, Catholics are not supposed to be violent. We're to love God and love our neighbor. The Romans, did not like the Jews, but had a respectful admiration for them. You see, the Jews were not pushovers. They would fight back when necessary. The Romans admired that trait. On the other hand, the early Christians were despised. They had the courage to stand up for those being mistreated. They would not bow down to the Roman gods and would not follow Roman rule when it conflicted with their Christian ideal. But here's the thing. They didn't even have the decency to lie or to fight back. They not only would not stay silent, but then accepted whatever consequences befell them, which many times meant martyrdom. And they did so with joy. Brothers and sisters, you see, we're not equipped for conventional warfare, but with gifts that were much more and are much more effective. Through peaceful protest and love of neighbor, the early Christians toppled a mighty and barbaric society in less than 300 years. Talk about setting the world on fire. But what about families being torn asunder? Is not one of the 10 commandments to honor your mother and father? That is true, but Jesus tells us, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the greatest and the first commandment. This means that doing the will of God comes even before the obligations to our family. We are charged with marshaling our forces, attacking and pushing back the forces of darkness. To wrestle control, we have been given the fire of the Holy Spirit, containing the gifts of wisdom, understanding, counsel, fortitude, knowledge, piety, and the fear of God. Like the early Christians, we must not be afraid to speak up when we see injustice. We must stand firm and speak out when the dogmas of our faith are attacked. And we must not compromise with our increasingly pagan culture. We must lovingly promote the truth of the gospel in our families, even if that brings discord. We must do all this with the fire of peace, love of neighbor, and above all, love of God. We are to be the purifying flame. Jesus said, I have come to set the earth on fire, and how I wish it were already blazing. Let us stoke the fire.